Good day everyone. I would like to start our lesson by showing these pictures. These are plants of my neighbor who loves plantitos and plantitas. It started during community quarantine when Filipinos have turned to plants to cope with coronavirus pandemic. And our topic today is related to these pictures. In my previous video lesson, we discussed on how representative of animals reproduce. Reproduction in animals is important for the survival of their species. Without a mechanism for reproduction, life would come to an end. Now, why plant reproduction is important? It is vital to people and animals because if plants were not continuing to make more of themselves, then there would not any plants for people and animals to eat. Plants and animals are interdependent because they all need each other to survive. Let us understand on how plants reproduce. Reproduction is the production of new organisms from their parents. It is also the same definition with animal reproduction from my previous video lesson. There are two modes of reproduction in plants. These are sexual and asexual reproduction. Now let us explore the difference between sexual and asexual reproduction in plants. Let us compare how does sexual reproduction differ from asexual reproduction in plants. For the sexual reproduction, it involves two parents. There is also a fusion of female and male cells. The parent and the offspring are not identical. There is a slower reproduction in plants. Variation is present in the same species. On the other hand, asexual reproduction, there is only one parent, no gametes are produced, parent and offspring are identical, there is a faster reproduction in plants, and no variation. These are types of asexual reproduction in plants in which new plants arise without the formation of seeds. We have vegetative propagation, budding, spore formation, and fragmentation. Vegetative reproduction, also known as vegetative propagation, vegetative multiplication, or cloning, is any form of asexual reproduction occurring in plants in which a new plant grows from a fragment of the parent plant or a specialized reproductive structure. We have another type of asexual reproduction in plants. It occurs through the formation of buds is called budding. The bud is the small bulb-like projection coming out from cell. In horticulture, the term budding refers to a method of plant propagation in which a bud of the plant to be propagated is grafted into the stem of another plant. Spore formation is a method of asexual reproduction which is found in non-flowering plants. In this method of reproduction, the parent plant produces hundreds of tiny spores which can grow into new plants. The spores are the microscopic, tough, and resistant bodies which are round in shape and can grow in a new plant under suitable conditions. Among plants, fragmentation is the regularly found type of asexual reproduction. Fragmentation is a very common type of vegetative reproduction in plants. Fragmentation occurs when a shoot that is rooted becomes detached from the main group. Now let us proceed to sexual reproduction in plants. In this type of reproduction, the reproductive parts of a plant, example flowers, are involved. It is also a type of reproduction in which new plants arise with the formation of seeds. The flowers in plants have two significant parts. These are attractive and reproductive parts. For the attractive parts, we have sepals and petals. And for the reproductive parts of the flowers, we have stamen, which is the female part, and pistils, the male part of the flower. These are the vital parts in the reproduction of plants. We have petals, pistil, sepals, and the stamen. We also have types of flowers. One is unisexual and the other one is bisexual. When we say unisexual, it consists either stamen or pistil but not both. Examples are corn, papaya, and cucumber. For the bisexual flowers, it consists both stamen and pistil. Examples are gumamela and rose. Pollination is not just fascinating natural history. It is an essential ecological survival function. Without pollinators, the human race and all of Earth's terrestrial ecosystems would not survive. So in pollination, it is also responsible in the reproduction of plants. When we say pollination, it is the process of transfer of pollen grains from stamen of a flower to pistil of the same or different flowers called pollination. It is of two types. These are self-pollination and cross-pollination. Who are pollinators? Birds, bats, butterflies, moths, flies, beetles, small mammals, and most importantly, bees are pollinators. They visit flowers to drink nectar or feed off of pollen and transfer pollen grains as they move from spot to spot. These are examples of pollinating agents who are responsible in the pollination of plants, where it transfers pollen grains from the anthers to the stigma. What is self-pollination? It occurs when the pollen from the anther is deposited on the stigma of the same flower or another flower on the same plant. The cross-pollination is defined as the deposition of pollen grains from a flower to the stigma of another flower. Commonly, the process is done by insects and bees. By insects, the process takes place in several plants like strawberries, grapes, raspberries, tulips, apples, plums, pears, daffodils, and more. Pollination by wind is observed in different grasses. Plant fertilization is the process of fusion of the female gamete, the ovum or egg, and the male gamete produced in the pollen tube by the pollen grain. When a pollen grain lands on the surface of a stigma, it produces a tube. The inside of the tip of the tube contains the male cells of the flower. These tubes grow down the style to reach the ovules in the ovary. Inside each ovule is an egg cell. Animals played an important role in the dispersal of seeds by excreting or burying them. Other fruits have structures such as hooks that attach themselves to animals' fur. Other fruits are large, colored, and fleshy or juicy to attract animals to eat them, swallowing the seeds at the same time. The seeds have hard, indigestible testa that pass out with feces in a new area away from original plant.